Good afternoon, wrestling fans. It is 6 p.m. over here, so afternoon is definitely the right phrase, but wherever you may be, I hope you are looking forwards to an evening of Raw, which promises to be at least slightly better than it has been previously when you look at the card there. I am Tom Colohue. You are joining me either immediately on Twitter, also potentially on YouTube, and on Twitch, where I am live and will be doing a lot more of these live shows. I won't be live on Twitter all that much, so if you do enjoy what I do here, be sure to sign up at twitch.tv/Tom Colohue. Now, what I'm going to be doing is running down the WWE Raw card and the information that we have on it so far. There was a lot of information and matches announced as of last night, which shows that the WWE is starting to book Raw at least a little bit more in advance than they have been doing previously. In the meantime, I'll also be talking about some news on the WrestleMania card as it begins to shape up, talking about Royal Rumble favorites, and as well talking about the $1 billion deal that the WWE has just struck with Peacock that will see the WWE network in the US at least shutting down in the middle of March time. So no hard and fast rule, but it's certainly going to have a big impact on people. Also today I'm going to be answering any questions that you have. You can comment as usual on YouTube, on Twitch, or in fact this week at least on Twitter via the Periscope app. So by all means, send your comments. I will answer your questions as they come in. If you are watching on YouTube, please remember to subscribe and click like on the video. That helps me grow. If you're watching on Periscope, please remember to click that love heart. And if you're watching on Twitch, please do remember to follow. That does have a really quite large effect on my numbers and will potentially be my income going forwards if I can make something of it. I'm slowly working towards the 50 followers I need on Twitch in order to start looking at monetization. So slowly but surely, we are getting there. Right, so I'll start by jumping in on the WWE Raw preview. The big news, or probably the biggest news, coming out of what's been happening recently is that Alexa Bliss is going to have a title match tonight against Asuka. This comes on the back of Alexa Bliss beating Asuka sort of clean last week. It's difficult to say exactly clean, but clean nonetheless. It was a 1-2-3 pin after a delightful Sister Abigail. That's just a wonderful little moment. Now, this really is much more about the characterization than the actual match. Alexa Bliss has been portraying a number of different characters at once. And this time around, we will hopefully see at least a little bit more refinement in what we are actually looking at for that. Who is it? Who is Alexa Bliss? What differentiation is there between the characters that she plays, and are any of them actually able to become champions? This does also raise some concerns about the potential favorite for the Royal Rumble, which was Alexa Bliss, but is now somebody else looking on the betting odds sites. It looks like we may be seeing Alexa Bliss versus Asuka at the Royal Rumble. I did theorize on that last week. However, it has come early, which suggests really that they're trying to keep the Royal Rumble shorter. We'll have to see as we go on. Let's look at some of the comments we got. Everything Pro Wrestling says, hey, Tom, I do recommend that people follow Everything Pro Wrestling. Thank you very much for dropping in, comrade. Love to see you here. I have appeared, in fact, last year in the Royal Rumble preview, I believe it was, on Everything Pro Wrestling, so I suggest you check them out. Sean Garner says, why do you call this the Becky Lynch Show? I just picked the biggest name on Raw, or at least on Raw when she left, which was Becky Lynch. The SmackDown show is called the Roman Reigns Show, for example. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, when I do gaming stuff on Twitch, it is named something different based on the game that I'm playing. For example, the Bloodborne save is called the Father Gascoigne Show. Everything Pro Wrestling, so I hope things are well, brother. They're going pretty well so far, to be honest. When it comes to the Royal Rumble big watch along, things are going really well as well. I spent a bit of this afternoon helping someone along with the software I'm going to be using that allows people to drop in and be special guests. I'm quite excited for the lineup. Hope you guys enjoy that. Ed, welcome, says happy Monday, everyone. Congrats on Vince making another $1 billion. This, I think, is his third billion. The man knows how to make money, and really, it says a lot about Raw at the minute. Yes, the ratings are going down, down, down. But for a while, I've been saying that the WWE have no concerns about low ratings, and the fact that they're able to make so much money from WWE Network content really shows what's going on. Now, when you look at the subscriber count in the US, it is less than 1 million subscribers to the WWE Network in the US, which means for your $9.99, that's less than $10 million. He's just managed to amplify that by 100 times. And just for the US. Sean Garner says, is Alexa Bliss winning the title tonight? Possible. I don't think too likely. Ellie Lynn, welcome, says, can you see some shenanigans happening tonight between Asuka and Alexa? I absolutely can. I believe a lot of different things are going to happen. If you'll just pardon me, I believe I have something in my eye. I believe a lot is going to happen in that match. I believe it will be the main event and it'll be really overbooked. I believe we are going to see Randy Orton, and I believe we are going to see The Fiend return around this match. But there's also different ways to take it. This could be the night when Asuka becomes Kana, which was her previous incarnation in different promotions, which was a lot more physical, a lot more violent, and a bit more fitting to the Alexa Bliss character we've seen. Manny Santos says, hello, welcome, Manny, glad to see you. Also says, tonight's Raw looks promising. I agree. They've put together a pretty solid card, pardon me, for the show so far, and I'm excited to see what they do with it. And the Star Wars Lounge says, hey, man, welcome, Star Wars Lounge, glad to see you here. Those are all the comments I have at the moment. For anyone watching via Periscope, which is the Twitter app, if you want to see these shows more regularly, because at the moment this is only the second one in 2 weeks, by all means remember to follow on Twitch, which is twitch.tv/Tom Colohue, or on YouTube, which is youtube.com, also /Tom Colohue. And if you're watching on YouTube, please do remember to click like on the video. Sean Garner says, will there be surprise or return entrances in both Rumbles? There will be, however, there won't be as many as there used to be. I believe most of the surprises will be NXT based. Ed says, any word on if Drew has passed a COVID test before returning? He hasn't passed one yet, to my knowledge. However, he is expected to be tested as he goes into Raw. He is likely to have already been tested because I don't suspect they would have announced him if not. However, he was always expected to be back at this time. The WWE do have previous for announcing someone for a match, expecting them to be back from having COVID, and unfortunately they returned a positive test for a number of weeks after their initial diagnosis, so they would be more careful at this point. Drew McIntyre, to my knowledge, has not been tested yet, but is expected to pass with flying colours, but we'll have to wait for more information to come out on that one. Manny says, I think Asuka retains, but wouldn't hate seeing Alexa win. I think that is a general opinion of quite a few people, that they wouldn't mind seeing Alexa take the title. She's been doing great things and is a real highlight of the women's division, but going forward, we will have to see what happens. Booking TN over on Periscope, welcome, and not a name I recognize, says, do you think it's weird that SmackDown is such a strong show and Raw seems so bad? I kind of do, because ultimately, while they have separate writing teams, they are still under the WWE umbrella, so you would expect that the shows would at least balance out slightly, or come to a happy medium, but that doesn't seem to have happened, unfortunately. Guinness Gamer says, hi Tom, welcome Owen, glad to see you here. And Sean Garner says, any guesses on which returns or surprises we get? I think I've mentioned this a couple of times here. Edge, for me, is the obvious one that I suspect will be returning. He was expected to return at around this time. But there are also names such as Jimmy Uso, for example. So there's a number of people it could be. And when it comes to the women, I don't believe Ronda Rousey is going to return. However, I don't have any information on that. Right, there are no comments coming in at the moment. Please do remember you can ask questions either on YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter. I am trying to drive followers to my Twitch, which is twitch.tv/Tom Colohue, for more shows in future. I will not be live on Twitter very often with this, so it's worth going over there and checking it. Okay, one last question from Book and TM before we swap back to the preview stuff. Any update on Aleister Black? This time last week, or I believe it was Friday, we were talking in here about Aleister Black and the amount of different reports that were coming out. There was a lot of people saying about one report that apparently came from PW Insider, but I was not able to find anything from PW Insider about it, probably because it suggested it was PW Insider Elite, and I don't pay for my wrestling news. Then there was news from Fightful Select, which I was not able to verify because I don't pay for my wrestling news. So the updates seem to be coming via paywalls, so I don't know what is rumored, as it were, but to my knowledge, Aleister Black's one that I'm really excited to see more of. I can't speculate further, but he is still with the WWE. He has not left. He has not been fired. We'll have to see going forwards when he returns. Manny says, Eva Marie is strongly rumoured, but not sure with the COVID stuff. Eva Marie's return has been strongly rumoured essentially since she left. I know that there are a number of rumours going about right now because people keep bringing it up here, and that's absolutely fair. And I like to hear stuff like that, but I don't see it happening for this particular Rumble, largely because of coronavirus, yes. Guinness Gamer says, so hyped for the Rumble with it only a week away. Who is your two preferred winners? Going preferred is Bianca Belair for the women and probably Daniel Bryan for the men, but I would really like Cesaro or Samoa Joe to win it. I did ask this on my Twitter. I'll say ask this. I did mention this on my Twitter that I would love to see Samoa Joe versus Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. However, a lot of people raise the question. I'd like to raise this with you guys here, and if you could answer in your own way, did the WWE miss their opportunity with Samoa Joe? I think that's well worth asking. Sean Garner says, could we see Tessa Blanchard make a surprise debut in the Rumble because that's how AJ Styles' signing was confirmed? No idea. I have nothing on Tessa Blanchard. Guinness Gamer said, what NXT men, women would you have in the Rumble? Most of them, to be honest, because there's not that many. They need to fill the card a little bit. Some of the big names, I would definitely have Pete Dunne, Roderick Strong in the men's. I would definitely have Rhea Ripley, Dakota Kai, and Io Shirai, and probably Casey Catanzaro as well in the women's. Casey Catanzaro made headlines with her way of escaping from being eliminated. I think it was 3 years ago. Get her back in, give her another chance. I'm sure by now she's had some more ideas as well. And we can also get those videos backstage that they do with Ricochet crying, because I really like how openly he cries. Like, he's not ashamed to cry, and I like that about Ricochet. So let's talk about the preview. In addition to what I've talked about there for Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton, Alexa Bliss, and Asuka, there was a match announced for Charlotte Flair, who will go one-on-one with Shayna Baszler. That could be a really big match, and I'm surprised they've decided to do it on Raw, so I don't think it's going to be a clean finish. I suspect Nia Jax will be getting very involved here, and maybe Asuka will be getting involved as well, but their storyline is very independent. The obvious play is that Asuka is not involved. Charlotte Flair starts to look good against Shayna Baszler, is then distracted by Lacey Evans, and Shayna Baszler gets a win over Charlotte Flair. That is what I suspect will happen this week, leading into a strong feud between Charlotte Flair and Lacey Evans going into the Rumble. I don't know whether they're expecting Charlotte to get a face pop when she eliminates Lacey, or maybe Lacey to get a face pop when she eliminates Charlotte. But to be fair, it'll be on the Thunderdome, and we'll find out whether they think Charlotte is a face or a heel by how they get the crowd reacting to her in the Royal Rumble, because they'll still be pressing buttons to see who comes away with what. That said, if this match gets more than 5 minutes, it should be quite good, but a lot of the matches on Raw and SmackDown have been very short recently. They are expecting a number of people back who may or may not have had coronavirus. I cannot confirm any names, and I would not even if I could. So it is likely to be a much more bloated Raw than it has been recently. We're not likely to see people take too many opportunities, as it were. They'll just have 1 or 2 segments rather than 3 or 4, as has been happening recently. Next match on the preview is Matt Riddle running the Gauntlet of the Hurt Business. Now, simple reality, Bobby Lashley is probably going to be the last man in the match, and he is likely to be pinning Matt Riddle or tapping him out pretty much clean as you like. But due to issues between Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander, Matt Riddle will likely win the first beat the first 3 opponents, and then get to the 4th. It is very classic WWE booking. There is going to be more between Jeff Hardy and Elias. They're working with Jackson Riker, so I'm not going to comment on that further. And in addition to that, AJ Styles is likely to face off against someone else who is trying to get into the Royal Rumble. I'm just not sure who that is going to be. He's doing good stuff at the moment, AJ Styles. He's getting good matches out of people, and I think he could work with a number of other people to do that as well. I'd like him to work with Mustafa Ali, but those two don't really gel together at the moment, given their storylines. So, who would you like AJ Styles to work with? He's got a number of faces, a number of people on the cruiserweight side who could do good things. Maybe we could intersect and have him work with Xavier Woods. I think Styles versus Xavier Woods could be an incredible match, to be completely honest. What can we see? As regards Samoa Joe, Guinness Gamer says, bringing him back as a badass. Pissed off he had to be chained up on commentary. Rumble would be the perfect Kickstarter. I agree. I think there is a lot that they could do with Samoa Joe, and I think Samoa Joe is one of those people, if you give him a microphone for 5 minutes, I will immediately believe he is championship material again. Just let the man talk. Jonas Gamers also says, who do you think will win the Men and Women's Dusty Classic? Honestly, at the moment, I'm not sure. I'm not too familiar with all of the teams. I don't watch NXT religiously, so I'm going to dodge that question if you'll permit me that one. Manny Santos says there's like 14 spots to fill out the Women's Rumble. They're going to need to have NXT and maybe some surprises. There are quite a lot of spots to fill up. That is true. However, it's not just because they haven't announced people. They could announce everyone. It's just that last year they announced like 26, 28 women and then had to pull some of them late in the day, for one of them being Sasha Banks. So they're being a bit more careful this time round, which I think is the right move, to be completely honest. It's smart to be a bit more careful. Ellie says, I think Shayna will win and that will justify women's tag title opportunity, most likely at the Rumble. I agree with that. That will also help sort of write out Charlotte as a Rumble competitor if she has 2 matches at once. Sean says, when does Charlotte and Asuka lose their titles and when do we see Seth Rollins return? I suspect both of those answers are the Royal Rumble, because I don't think Asuka will be a double champion going into WrestleMania. They need to have the championship separate, although there is some news on WrestleMania coming. Star Wars Lounge said Xavier Woods is very underrated. I completely agree. I think he's an incredible performer who deserves pretty much every chance he has ever had and more. And I'd like to see more from him now that he's on his own for now. The New Day have been very effectively split up into singles competitors. Anand says, today there was some news regarding WWE selling its network. Do you have an update regarding this? I do. I'm going to get through the questions, get through the preview, and then start talking about that. I do have a bit of analysis of that and the WrestleMania card as it's starting to take shape that will come at the end of this video. Well, this live show. Manny says it's only 3 people. MVP Cedric Shelton is to earn a championship shot. Her business like to change things. Now, that is definitely as it's been announced, and you're right to point that out. I should have pointed that out in the preview. That is what's been announced. I do still suspect Bobby Lashley is definitely going to get involved. We'll have to wait and see on that one, but you're right to point that out. Thank you. Ed says WWE hasn't missed the boat with Joe. The injuries at the wrong times have absolutely destroyed his ability to be pushed. He's brought into a storyline with Triple H and Seth, so that's the main event level. Completely agree. Joe's been pushed quite strong for pretty much his entire time on the main roster. Yes, as you mentioned there, straight in with Seth Rollins. Seth then got injured. So it meant that they couldn't have, for example, Samoa Joe versus Seth Rollins at the February pay-per-view, as was initially alluded to. Samoa Joe went on shortly after that to take on Brock Lesnar in what was a great program. His delivery in that, a great balls of fire, funny name, great show though, earned him the spot at SummerSlam, where they had a fatal 4-way. Again, fantastic match. And the promos building up to that were incredible. Incredible. A year later, SummerSlam time again, he got the program for the WWE title with AJ Styles, which lasted for months. And then, of course, he's also faced off with Roman Reigns, a top-level guy, and Kofi Kingston for a little while as part of a wild card. The fact that they trusted him to come over and do that was helpful. But yes, as you say, very unlucky, unfortunately, with injuries. He's been injured a number of times, some of which has been concussion-based, and they have to be very, very careful with that. You remember how long Alexa Bliss was out, for example? They have to be very careful. And Samoa Joe, unfortunately, might just not be trusted by the WWE anymore. That would be a shame because he's a tremendous performer, but his health does come first. Guinness Gamer says, what non-title matches would you have at WrestleMania? I think The Fiend needs to be in a non-title match, but I'm not sure who his ideal opponent would be. Give me Aleister Black for sure. If Randy Orton and Edge get the match that is roughly expected, I think that should be non-title. Outside of that, we have a lot of championships. And honestly, I would like to see a Cruiserweight Championship ladder match. I'd like to get that title on the show because why not? Why not? So I don't think many, but that does remove a lot of people from the picture. Kevin Owens, for example, is one of those people who doesn't necessarily have anything lined up at the moment for WrestleMania. It's a tough one. Guinness Gamer says, just hope Raw has something tonight that makes me buy into any one of their wrestlers as Rumble contenders because at the moment I only want SmackDown people to win. I agree with that. SmackDown has done a much better job highlighting potential winners on SmackDown. You look at Nakamura, you look at Cesaro, you look at Daniel Bryan. They're immediate ones. whereas Lashley, Keith Lee, they don't feel like they have much of a shot. Michael Latina says, how's it going, Tom? Going pretty good, thank you, Michael. I've been doing a lot of work on my next novel, which I'll discuss a little bit later when I start running out of questions. But I do have another novel expected to come out relatively soon. It's not going to be released on Amazon as my previous novels have been, but it will still be going out into the public eye, as it were. I'm looking for a literary agent at the moment, appealing to quite a few different people, trying to find what I can find. Ed, would you be able to do me a favor, please? I don't think I need to tell you what it would be. Anam Vaswani says, was watching 2015 Royal Rumble yesterday where Roman won. Do you think this was a poor booking decision considering the crowd reaction he got? Crowd were even cheering for Rusev, who was heel and had a great match. It's a difficult one. I can't necessarily sit there and say that was really poor booking or that wasn't poor booking and so on and so forth, because a year before, everyone had been cheering for Roman against Batista. So I get that. It was extremely close to the time when the crowd started to turn on Roman, because in the months beforehand, he was still getting very big pops, even as early as that month, a couple of weeks previous, when he was announced as Superstar of the Year. He got a really good crowd reaction. So I get why they went that way. But when they actually got to the event, something had changed. And the fact that Daniel Bryan was eliminated so early was confusing, shall we say. It was confusing. Thank you very much, Ed. Appreciate that. It says, with the rumors of big names appearing at the 2 nights of WrestleMania or SummerSlam, is there a chance we see John Cena versus Roman in a way to have Roman prove that he is a guy that John said he wasn't in their previous feud? Well, to be fair, Roman did really definitively say that by beating John Cena in that feud. I believe it was No Mercy 2018, but don't quote me on that. I know it was a No Mercy pay-per-view. I'm just not entirely sure when it was, but it was a good match and was really enjoyable. It took 4 spears to get the job done, but they got the job done. It was sort of an NXT match, if you get what I'm saying. But it's one of those. There is a lot that could go into it. I think there's definitely a chance we're going to see John Cena. I have a bit more to say on that a bit later on, because there is a way that the WWE does things which suggests the way that they will do things this year. And I've got some more information and analysis based on some of the rumors coming out about that as well. Guinness Gamer says, what's the novel about? I apologize to anyone who doesn't want me to take personal questions, but I'm definitely going to take this one. It is sort of a crime thriller. I have released 2 of a 4-part series, an initial book and then a beginning of a trilogy. They are on Amazon at the moment for Kindle. Over the years, I've been writing a lot, but I never really felt confident going to literary agents. So yeah, Deja Vu is the first book. Taxman is the second one. They are both available on Amazon. Deja Vu is free at the moment because of the way that Kindle Select works and the way that they line things up. I'm fine with that. I just want people to read it, to be completely honest. So it is a continuation of that. The book is called The Curd. Oh, missed one. Guinness says, would you ever bring out a wrestling novel? Depends what you mean by wrestling novel. I'd probably write a novel about wrestlers, but writing a book about wrestling, I'm not sure I know enough, to be completely honest. I don't have the contacts, essentially. Jermaine Presley says, hi, Tom. Welcome, Jermaine. I have a feeling that WWE is going to go 2 ways. They either have Alexa Bliss win the title tonight or some kind of way and have Asuka defend her title against Alexa Bliss at the Royal Rumble. I don't think this is going to be a match that goes to a clean finish. I think we will see Randy Orton coming out to get some element of revenge against Alexa Bliss. And I think we will see the return of The Fiend to protect her, leading into, will The Fiend appear at the Royal Rumble? Which certainly he could, because Randy Orton is announced for the Rumble, and they don't have much time now to change that and announce a Firefly Funhouse match for the Rumble. If they do plan to do that, now would have to be their moment. So I don't think it's going to be a clean finish, and I think that may lead to having another match at the Royal Rumble. Michael says, not sure if you talked about this yet, but what do you think happens in the Asuka versus Alexa match on Raw? I believe I just answered that pretty succinctly. Guinness Gamer says, do you think Apollo could pin Zayn in a IC triple threat, hopefully Heyman interference, which frees up an annoyed Big E to win the Rumble? That could certainly happen. I think a triple threat is where they're going with that. That will probably be formalized this week leading into the Rumble, or it will be held for Elimination Chamber, Fastlane, that sort of element. But Apollo Crews, since appearing with Roman Reigns, has seen his stock rise. And I'm interested to see what he's able to do with it. Guinness Gamer says, you always see people do it the other way. Who is one person in AEW you think WWE could use better? I didn't waste time by having a drink so I could think about that. No. That's a really good question. There's quite a few people in AEW who aren't hitting the highlights. I think the former Ty Dillinger, for example, has not really hit the highlights, and that's a shame. I felt after going to AEW, he'd be able to deliver a bit more, but he's sort of fallen down the wayside. And I think AEW, because they've only got 1 2-hour show, their roster's just a bit bloated and they can't fit too many people on. There aren't too many, but I think WWE would probably push Lance Archer a bit stronger because of the size of him. And I've reported previously there's some interest in him. Anand Vaswani says, I think there is a chance of Braun Strowman or Keith Lee winning the Royal Rumble. For Roman, they can decide his opponent at Elimination Chamber. It's possible. We haven't seen Braun Strowman in a while. I don't know if he's back yet, but he has appeared in a lot of the Royal Rumble advertising, mostly because of that wonderful moment, which was not in the Royal Rumble, which I believe was in the Battle Royal, the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, when he's surrounded by people and just goes, "Rah!" And it looks really nice. It looks really nice. So, number of ways they could do that. Jermaine says, hey, Tom, did you catch the WWE exclusive? Kaylee Ray said after her match last week that she wants more challenges and she's going after the very best. So we might get Sasha versus Kaylee Ray soon. Kaylee Ray has been asking to face your Becky Lynch's, your Sasha Banks's for over a year now. I was sat in a round table with her when she mentioned it this time last year before NXT UK takeover Blackpool. I'm a Blackpool boy, so I was there at the show and I was part of the interviews. I, in fact, still have the audio, so I could cut that out and play that during a live stream at some point so that you see that. But I don't think we'll see it for a while, largely because of COVID. Kaylee Ray, however, is likely to be moving to NXT once they can. Ed says, will the Fastlane pay-per-view have something relevant or big matches announced for it, or will it be in the first pay-per-view on Peacock? It certainly will. However, I think the big push, as it were, will be WrestleMania. Fastlane, they are likely to still do what they would previously, but there is definitely going to be a push to grab casual viewers via Peacock, because the WWE Network, with all the subscribers it has in the US, it now has access to all of the Peacock subscribers as well, and Peacock will gain those wrestling subscribers. So imagine that you're scrolling through a Netflix or something, and suddenly there's wrestling content, and it's WrestleMania. You're not going to skip that opportunity. And it's one of those things. They will appeal so much more to casual viewers, but I will have more analysis on this after I've finished answering the questions. Jermaine says, do you think WWE is wasting Charlotte versus Shayna Baszler on TV tonight? I don't think they're wasting it necessarily. You still need to have good matches on TV. And ultimately, pay-per-views are less lucrative than TV now. The amount of money that the WWE is getting for TV deals, they would rather put big matches on Raw and SmackDown, which is why also we had Brock Lesnar versus Kofi Kingston on SmackDown. So we'll see. The exceptions, of course, are shows like the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, where they still have the natural advertising for it. Manny says, I remember last week Randy said that Alexa isn't his problem, it's the Fiend. So I don't know if Randy has a problem with Alexa. I think it's mainly the Fiend. No, I agree completely with that, but I think the best way to draw the Fiend out is via Alexa, and I think Braun Strowman has proved that in the past as well. Guinness says, who would you have dethrone Walter? It's an interesting one, because I think without the pandemic, Walter would not have been a champion for as long as he has been. In NXT UK, a lot of people have retained the belts, just going on and on and on. And a lot of this is just that they haven't been able to deliver a show. Now that they can, they're still delivering big matches, but they're not delivering many surprises. It's the show you watch if you're looking for great wrestling, but not much in the way of storylines. And that's why it's not really appealed to me. So to actually dethrone Walter, there's a number of talented people there. I think Dave Mastiff could be the one, but that's mostly because I believe in Dave Mastiff. And there's a lot of people on the NXT UK roster I may not believe in. Guinness Games also says, do you think eventually Peacock will maximize profits and start charging for pay-per-views? That may well be what they decide to do. That is something that they are permitted to do under the terms of the deal, to my knowledge. So I think that is possible. But it's also possible that WWE and Peacock will come to an arrangement whereby they can still sell pay-per-views to third parties outside of WWE and Peacock, as long as Peacock gets a cut. And Vaswani says, your favorite Rumble moment? As Kofi has some hilarious, unbelievable eliminations, saving moment, or some comical short elimination like Santino Marella, or R-Truth for any WWE Hall of Famer? It's a good question. Got it. That moment when Vince McMahon tore both his quads off the bone, sliding into the ring because Batista and John Cena had screwed up the landing. There it is. There it is right there. I'm not ashamed. I'm really quite proud of saying that. I just really haven't changed my information on my... Oh, it's already worked on Twitch. Oh, fantastic. Brilliant. Thought I'd just check. Finally, Guinness Gamer says, do you think eventually NXT UK will be absorbed into NXT Europe? Probably, yeah, but to be fair, NXT UK already is NXT Europe. They have a lot of people from the continent there. But right now, that's made all the more awkward because UK has left Europe. They've left the European Union, and while they're still part of the European continent, it's going to be more difficult for UK performers to get across to an NXT Europe, and it's going to be even more difficult for a NXT UK to host European talent. Volta, for example, doesn't live full-time in the UK, so it may be more difficult for him to get to the UK after all. It's a tricky one, and of course it makes it harder for people. For example, they've pushed back NXT UK TakeOver Dublin, which is the Republic of Ireland. The Republic of Ireland are part of the EU, but the UK is not, which means it's going to be that little bit harder to get people over from the UK to Dublin. It's actually not hard. It's not hard at all. You have to spend a bit more time in a longer line. That's pretty much the only difference you'll notice. But UK people are so used to their privilege. What can I say? Right, let's move on with the preview, see what we've got there. Talked about that. The return of the champ. Drew McIntyre is expected back on WWE Raw tonight, and there will undoubtedly be some big stare down because Goldberg is also expected back tonight. I did mention in these streams over the last few weeks that I had no expectation of seeing Goldberg again. I'm trouble swallowing, don't know where it is. Much better. That I didn't expect to see Goldberg until this week, so that they could have a staring contest between him and McIntyre. They're likely to get a little bit physical. They're both going to be cutting promos, which can be used in the hype package at the Royal Rumble, because at the moment, the only thing they've got available for a hype package is a little bit of shoving and a promo from Goldberg that doesn't make much sense. It just doesn't make much sense. So they need something new there. Okay, last few bits. Okay. Retribution. Mustafa Ali and Xavier Woods are definitely in some sort of feud. It's interesting because Ricochet is being pushed to one side by Retribution here. So maybe we see Retribution go after Mustafa Ali, he's in charge. Go after Ricochet and Xavier Woods, and they can form some sort of tag team to go up against Mace and the other one. I haven't learned their names. The one from week before. Flapjack? Which one is Flapjack? T-Bar. Thank you, Ed. I really appreciate you being here. Who's Flapjack? That's a different thing entirely. Realized as I said it. It is an interesting one. I like Mustafa Ali, but Retribution just unfortunately have not done anything good so far. They just haven't. We need to see a lot more from them. Xavier Woods is probably the perfect opponent, and Ricochet his storyline has been used up as much as it can be. One final point as regards Slapjack is Shane Thorne. Slapjack, not Flapjack. Slapjack. Yes, thanks Ed for laying out who everybody is. That's helpful. Trying to remember. It's not because I don't find them interesting. So one final point. Last week we did not see Sheamus or Keith Lee. However, Sheamus did take some pictures backstage. Kind of. He's got a picture of Hulk Hogan that doesn't look photoshopped, but he's got another one which does kind of look a little bit photoshopped. So we will see if we see more of Keith Lee and Sheamus this week on Raw. If not, I still expect we will see them in the Royal Rumble. Michael Latina says, I was thinking that maybe someone from Raw, for example, Alexa, could win the Women's Rumble and then SmackDown would get the Elimination Chamber. What do you think about that? Whichever way it goes, that is how it's going to end up in order to make this happen. Unless, for example, Goldberg comes out and says, Roman, I want you. And then they just decide to do that, much like they did last year. The Elimination Chamber didn't count for very much last year, unfortunately, because they were doing other things and they just decided, okay, well, you're going against him, you're going against him, and oh no, now it's Braun Strowman. Well, kind of last minute, what can I say? Matt says, when you realize what slapjack actually means, wow, I feel bad for Shane Thorne. You're not the only one. And Jermaine Presley says, any news on Tessa Blanchard, Ronda Rousey, and Taya Valkyrie showing up to Rumble this Sunday coming up? No news whatsoever. I've heard nothing about any of them there. And to be honest, I don't expect to see any of them there. However, if that is a surprise as planned, it'll be a surprise to me. And I'm okay with that. I'm going to quickly plug things before going on to the news and analysis about WrestleMania card and the Peacock deal. So, this coming Sunday, I'm going to be doing a Royal Rumble watch-along. It starts at 9 p.m. my time, so an hour before the pre-show starts for your time, whatever your time may be for that pre-show starting. I have a number of special guests. Last count, there were 4 of them who will be joining me over the course of the night. And a lot of the time, though, it will just be me. So I'm hoping to see plenty of you there. This will be live, not on Twitter, just on YouTube and on Twitch. I may do the first hour on Twitter to be a pre-show of the pre-show, as it were, to drive traffic a little bit, which is always good, could potentially get me some more numbers. My intention with this is to try and get follower numbers up on Twitch. So I would really appreciate it if anyone who did not already follow me on Twitch will pop over to twitch.tv/Tom Colohue for that. And additionally, if you're a fan of this show on YouTube, you can still click like, which will help me grow there, and I really do appreciate it. So over the course of the next week on my Twitter, which is at Colohue, just down there, Colohue, I will be announcing the guests. They're not celebrities, they're friends, they're analysts, and they're colleagues. But I'm also getting a number of people sending in video clips and the like that may be beneficial and people may enjoy. There may be a few surprise faces and the like. I would also like to hear your predictions in that show. So if you want to watch the Royal Rumble with a bit of company, by all means, be sure to follow either on YouTube or on Twitch, and you can join me there. I will essentially be streaming for 7 hours. I am nervous about this, very nervous. And no, I will not be setting up bottles. I'll be popping to the bathroom like everyone else. That's why I've got guests coming in to vamp for me while I do that, so I'm never entirely off stream. Oop, no, I missed one. Matt says, I think Orton screws Bliss tonight. That can be taken a number of wrong ways. Jermaine Presley says, hey, Tom, I know how you feel, but I have a feeling Rhea Ripley is winning the Royal Rumble and Bayley or Bianca Belair is winning the Elimination Chamber. I'll be fine with that. I'll be absolutely fine with that. I'm not sure I'd go with Bayley so soon after the feud that she had with Sasha Banks. Bianca Belair for sure, but Rhea Ripley could do great things with a Rumble win. Matt Hendrick says, I don't think Alexa Bliss is winning the title tonight, nor should she. Either way, someone will be mad. Either way, it doesn't matter who loses. I think WWE has booked themselves into another corner tonight. Pardon me. This is why I think we're not going to get a clean finish in any way, shape, or form. And it may not be the main event, because the main event may be the stare down between Drew and Goldberg for 3 hours. They've announced more than usual, but they still haven't announced all that much, if you ask me. So I've mentioned the Royal Rumble watch along. Let's move on to a bit of talk and analysis about what's been going on in the WrestleMania card and the Peacock deal. So I wrote this out ahead of time, so I'm just going to read it verbatim. The WrestleMania card is starting to shape up with a number of rumors out there at the moment about what to expect. With Mania going 2 nights again, they're looking to build a very similar show to last year. So 2 even-ish shows where you want to watch both nights and they're both a manageable bite-sized amount. We may not see the Battle Royals again, for example, but I think we're more likely to see them this time than we did last year. They want both shows to be equally memorable, so they want 2 top matches for each night, exactly the same as they did last year. Firstly, they want a championship match, in this case a WWE Championship on one night, and a Universal Championship on the other night. And secondly, they want something to attract the casuals. This is only boosted by the Peacock deal. They want people who attract casual viewership, which is why they bring the legends back. The company were very smart with this last year by ensuring they had someone of top drawing power with casuals in all 4 top matches. The WWE Championship match had Brock Lesnar. The Universal Championship match had Goldberg. The Firefly Funhouse match had John Cena. And finally, the Boneyard match had The Undertaker. Those were your top 4 matches last year, and they want to essentially redo that this year. They want 4 top matches, and they are not at the moment considering women's matches in that. The list of potential names to draw in that manner is quite short. Goldberg, Cena, and Triple H are top names, but after that, we're looking at a return for Brock Lesnar, who would be moderately expensive, but they would want to bring him back from Mania, and or The Undertaker. Separate from that top tier, keep an eye out for a returning Edge soon. He was expected to be back around January time, so the Royal Rumble seems a perfect time for his return, leading into WrestleMania, but he is not considered someone who has top drawing power with casuals. What this means for lower down the card is that the WWE are unlikely to be taking too many risks with talent less known to a casual audience. For my money, this reinforces the likelihood of Daniel Bryan winning the Royal Rumble. Who do you guys think is going to win the Royal Rumble? And would you be annoyed if it was Daniel Bryan? Would you think someone else needs the opportunity more? Also, to be fair, would you be annoyed if The Undertaker came back? Would you be annoyed by that? I have just realized that I missed something a little bit earlier from Anand. WWE are advertising Omos's debut. He debuted. If not, do you think he will debut in the Rumble match and eliminate AJ Styles? I do not think so. I think tonight we're likely to see him against whoever AJ Styles is feuding with, or maybe it will be against AJ Styles, but I think it'll be a dodgy finish in every possible way. He could be someone they bring into the Rumble. Why not, after all? But when it comes to his future in the company, at the moment, it is very much tied to AJ Styles. So that's what I expect to see. Right. Matt Hendricks says, I can see WWE doing a 94 Rumble with Belair Bayley. Possibly. I mean, there's a number of things they can do. They will certainly be involved in some way in the finish for the show. Guinness Gamer says, what are you most excited for in Raw? Probably Alexa Bliss versus Asuka, to be honest. I like Alexa Bliss. I think she's an incredible talker. And really, the better talkers are the ones that I'm really interested in. So this works for me. They could do great things with it. And I think that's definitely something that could happen. I don't know if she'll be winning the championship, but I think it'll at least be a compelling storyline. Hendrick says, because it feels like the only reason Charlotte was put with Asuka to challenge for the title of Mania 37 could happen. Definitely could happen, especially if we have a SmackDown winner for the Women's Rumble. Ellie Line says, I really hope a women's match main events one night of Mania 37. It depends on the match. They want the casual audience. And with that in mind, the reason we had a women's main event is because Ronda Rousey appeals to casuals. Now, if Rousey comes back in the Rumble, for example, and we get Sasha Banks versus Ronda Rousey, that is likely to be a main event. However, at the moment, we'll have to wait and see. Matt says he would not be mad because it's so WWE to have Undertaker come out of retirement. Fair enough. And if Taker does return, he's facing The Fiend. That would probably be the right way to do it for me. Undertaker versus The Fiend. And for me, it would also be best to do it Firefly Funhouse. It really does. And because then you can get many incarnations of The Undertaker, including the American Badass, which will annoy people, but I'm okay with it. Ellie says, I love Daniel Bryan, but I don't feel he needs the Rumble win, nor does he need it to face Roman at Mania. Completely agree. He may be a good match in that regard. Star Wars Lounge says, as long as it isn't for a match, I'll be fine with Taker showing up. That's certainly got potential, especially if it is a Firefly Funhouse match. So that could definitely work. Also says, I think Bryan will win the Rumble or Nakamura. Both can do very good things with it. Personally, as I've mentioned, Daniel Bryan is certainly one with potential for it. Matt Hendricks says, Becky versus Ronda is really the only Mania-worthy main event in WWE's eyes. Well, I disagree with that entirely. Otherwise, they would have done it every year for the past few years, to be completely honest. The Roman versus Bryan, if it happens, that's a worthy main event in WWE's eyes. Roman versus Triple H would be a worthy main event. Roman versus Goldberg would be a worthy main event. Drew McIntyre versus Keith Lee versus Brock Lesnar would certainly be a worthy main event. There's a number of options, including John Cena versus Drew McIntyre, as Guinness Gamer says there. I think there's a lot of things they could do there. Matt says, put Aleister Black on TV and face Undertaker. That could work as well. Stories they are telling on SmackDown should be Nakamura. Where was he last week? Genuine question. No idea where he was. They let us all down, I think, a little bit. His momentum, at least. Anon said, as you said, WWE will try to capture casual viewership. So do you think they can go to an extent that they book Brock Lesnar to win Royal Rumble, like Batista won in 2014, and go on to a championship feud at Mania? I think that is certainly possible. I think we will see a return of Brock Lesnar sooner rather than later. That's definitely something that I can see happening. And in addition to that, there's just so much they can do with it. So much they can do. Now, Brock Lesnar is one of those that brings immediate drawing potential no matter what he's doing. No matter what he is doing, he brings immediate drawing potential. So if you stick him in the Rumble, people are going to tune in. And I think logically, McIntyre versus Lesnar is a big draw match that they do want to run again. Just hopefully it lasts more than 3 minutes this time. Ellie says, I feel like Bayley versus Bianca or versus Sasha could be a worthy main event. There was a push around summertime for Bayley versus Sasha to be a WrestleMania main event. And I could see it. I would have loved to see it. But I think they pushed too hard for it too soon. And I think a lot of that's due to the shake-up that they had, the draft that they had. It wasn't originally planned for exactly then, and they seem to abandon a lot of storylines in the build-up to it and then restart them afterwards. Star Wars Down says, is there any possibility Brock could show up the Rumble match? I believe I have answered that. He certainly could. This time, every year, he tends to turn up. Matt says, I don't know, he was a part of that India thing as a heel for some reason. He was a part of the tapings. To be fair, that's probably where Drew McIntyre will have got tested, because that was being filmed today, if not part of it tomorrow. So who knows? Guinness says, do you think Roman, whoever he faces at Mania? Could you add a little bit to that, Guinness Gamers? I'm not entirely sure what you're saying. Matt says, I can see Brock versus Drew happening this time with fans. Certainly could, but they're not going to wait for fans for everything. And Guinness Gamer says, do you think Roman and Rock at WrestleMania Hollywood would even need the title? No, I don't. I really don't. I don't think it needs a belt. I think it would be a big draw match regardless. And I think with Roman as he is now, they would tell a really good story. Thank you, Guinness has clarified that it's, do you think Roman beats whoever he faces at Mania? Yes, I do, including if it is Daniel Bryan. I think Roman will be champion for a while yet, and I think there will be another shake-up before we find out who his actual, who the victor over him will be. Matt says, I still think Sasha should have been drafted to Raw, win the Rumble and challenge Bayley. I think they had already waited too long, and if they didn't pull the trigger, it would have been too close. Too late. Okay. Those are all the questions I have. Let's go to talking about the Peacock deal. I've just retweeted for Periscope. If you are watching on Periscope, please do remember that I will not be doing these shows on Periscope very often. If you want to watch, by all means, tune into my YouTube, which is youtube.com/Tom Colohue, or Twitch, which is twitch.tv/Tom Colohue. I am trying to move people over to my Twitch, because once I reach 50 followers on there, the YouTube shows will stop and they will be entirely on Twitch. So if you want to continue watching these shows, Twitch is the place to do it. I also do a lot of gaming content there, so worth a follow. Let's talk about the Peacock deal. Again, I've written this out in advance, so I'm just going to read it straight off the sheet that I've got. So the WWE have just signed a deal worth over $1 billion with Peacock. Peacock will become the exclusive carrier of the WWE network in the United States. That means that the network will no longer be available in the US via the WWE website. You will have to subscribe to Peacock. You need to sign up to Peacock for it. It's a coup for Peacock, but based on the overall subscriber numbers for the WWE network, it's not $1 billion coup. I think WWE were making about 10 million from this. Now they're making $1 billion over several years. So let's say it's 5 years, then it is a 20 times profit increase for the WWE. They are laughing their way to the bank. The fact that they let so many people go looks more baffling every single day. This does suggest a move away from the network subscription model for the WWE. And this is something that has been talked about in the quarterly earnings calls and reports for a while now. There were rumors and reports, and Vince McMahon openly said of the WWE looking to sell pay-per-view content to third-party suppliers for a long while now, and this is a move towards other subscription-based services hosting all WWE content. There is a reason for this. The WWE have never wanted to be the host for their content. They made the network as a way to get ahead of rivals and as a way to get ahead of things like Netflix and the like, but they made it at exactly the right time, and now there is infrastructure elsewhere that they don't need to be the host. When they are the host, it hurts them in the casual fan base market because people can't run into it when looking for TV. If you're scrolling through the WWE network, you've come here looking for wrestling. If you're scrolling through Peacock, you've come here looking for entertainment. It can be any number of things, but the WWE is something you will see heavily advertised. They only ever wanted to be a creator. In addition, there are server costs of hosting the WWE network, and the amount of content that they have, that could potentially be problematic. Now they can shift all that to Peacock and not have to pay as much for servers. Don't be too surprised as well to hear more about BT Sport over in the UK and Sony in India picking up more network content as well as they look towards moving to that model also. BT Sport over in the UK is a sports platform. You find the WWE when you're looking for football, for rugby, for tennis, for all of those things. That's what the WWE wants. They want to be in front of a casual viewer much more than they want a captive viewer. Now, Peacock will take over the network in March, meaning that if you're in the US, you will need to subscribe to Peacock to watch WrestleMania, unless they get other third-party deals. This means that the WWE are under even more pressure to attract casual viewers and get top names on the card, as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to Goldberg, John Cena, probably already set for the card, Triple H, possibly, Brock Lesnar and The Undertaker, maybe. They are trying to get those names. It is going to be top heavy, it's going to be legend heavy, and I worry a little bit for the undercard of WrestleMania. Ooh. Star Wars Lounge says, which champion do you prefer at the moment, Drew or Roman? Roman, without a doubt. I really like how Drew has been as a champion, but the moment Roman came back, Drew was essentially demoted. It's a shame, but it is a reality of the situation. Jermaine says, do you think you'll see the NXT women's title being defended at WrestleMania this year and possibly the women's Dusty Cup winner faces the current or whoever is at the time the women's tag team champ? I don't personally think NXT are going to appear on the WrestleMania card at all in any way. So we won't see like last year where Rhea Ripley and Shayna Baszler were there. I think at this point we're going to see a lot less NXT people involved in main roster. There'll be a lot less connection. There were rumors that Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley were being called up. That still has not happened. So I think there are different ways they could do things. I think it'll be mostly champions and their challengers on the cards. And I think it's going to be shorter matches. Pardon me. Jermaine also says, Sasha Banks versus Ronda Rousey will appeal to the casual fans, and that feud would sell more than most men's matches at Mania. Completely agree, and that's why I think it's the only women's match that has a chance of breaking into that top 4. It's not a great situation, but it is the situation that the women find themselves in. I have no questions at the moment coming in, so please do remember to ask any questions if you are watching on YouTube, Periscope, or Twitch. And remember that if you want to continue seeing this content long term, you need to pop over to twitch.tv/Tom Colohue and click follow there. There are a number of people over there watching at the moment, but if unfortunately, if you're not following, it can be a problem when the shows come out because you won't get a notification. It's free to follow on Twitch, and you get an email every single time I come online, and I change it to what I am doing, why you should pop over and see. Finally, Matt said, WWE also said if you're already a subscriber to the WWE Network, your account will be migrated to Peacock, which makes perfect sense, and your billing information will simply be changed. That automatically gives Peacock a whole lot of income and in many ways justifies what they're doing. Pardon me. Matt says, to me last year, Cena versus Fiend should have been the title. Cena looking for number 17 and Bray getting his revenge for remaining 30. That's a great story. To be fair, it's we still got a lot of that story, but I don't think Cena wants to be in and around the championship. I don't think he'll want to be in around the championship for a while. I think at this point he has no interest in any more championship reigns. That is everything I have to cover. We've managed this just inside now, so I'm going to talk about a little bit of personal news. I did mention a novel earlier. My novel is currently at about 200 pages, and that's the planning document. And that's before I've managed to fit in most of the dialogue or any of the descriptive stuff. So if you're a fan of good old-fashioned fiction, I have a page on Amazon where you can pick those up for the Kindle. Deja Vu, my first book, is currently available for free. So I do suggest people pick it up and give it a try, because there will be more coming in future. I'm a writer by trade. That's my personal preference. That's what I want to do with my my life and my career. So that's the plan. When it comes to Twitch and what's planned there, on Tuesdays, so tomorrow, there will be Football Manager 2021 content. On Thursday, I am playing Bloodborne. I am going to change my audio setup and plug this mic in downstairs with my PS4 to hopefully be a bit better there. And beyond that, we also have a number of other things coming in the lineup. We will have the Friday Roman Reigns show, which will be this time on Friday. And we have the Sunday night Royal Rumble watch along starting 9 p.m. my time. So 3 hours after this show started on Sunday, we will start that. And it will be a whole watch along of the entire Royal Rumble, including the pre-show and a bit of post-show content as well, with a number of guests making an appearance. In the meantime, I think we'll wrap it up there. Oh, we have another question. What did you make of Braun's run as Universal Champion? And do you think they'll give him world title run again? I think for a first championship run, that was pretty good from Braun Strowman. He did deliver in the main event. He did show what he was made of, but they were playing up to The Fiend much more than they were playing up to Braun Strowman. He didn't get that many opportunities, but for a first run, I think it was very good, and I think the company does have quite a bit of faith in him. And Jermaine says, John Cena going against Roman for his 17th championship, or John Cena going against Drew McIntyre for his 17th championship, will be a top draw at WrestleMania. What do you think? I agree. Any match featuring John Cena would fit the bill. John Cena is one of the most recognizable names in wrestling, and if he is going to come back, personally, I would rather see him work with McIntyre than Reigns. But to be fair, whoever he works with will feel the benefit, I am sure. So I'm going to wrap this up. I've been Tom Colohue. I thank everyone for dropping in, even if you just watched for a couple of seconds, everyone who asked a question, everyone who clicked like on YouTube, everyone who has followed on Twitch. I look forward to seeing everyone either tomorrow, this same time on Twitch, or on Friday on YouTube for the SmackDown preview show. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining me.